I've been listening to different people streaming this game, talking about Eclipse, and different friends that I play with, and it's interesting to me the different way people kind of view Eclipse. I think Disputed Origin just put a poll on YouTube about, like, to his viewers, you know, what's your preferred difficulty level? And the result was mostly Monsoon. It was like a ton of Monsoon, and then like less than 20% each split between Rainstorm, Drizzle, and Eclipse. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And on top of that, I was thinking about, you know, like what some of my friends were saying and what some of these other people that play the game, stream the game, were saying. And it kind of seems like, I don't know if I'd say it's two camps, but there is this general idea that Eclipse is annoying and that it's designed in a way to just mess with you, to make things terrible, to make things not fun. And fun is such a relative term that if you don't enjoy something, you shouldn't do it. But I kind of disagree with the notion that Eclipse was designed to not be fun. So I feel pretty strongly justified in that opinion, because some people do think it's fun. And I think it's just a difference of what kinds of things people think are fun or not. Like, some people like Sudoku, some people don't. Some people like chess, some people don't. Some people like football, and some people don't. You know, preferences is one thing, but sometimes whether you can enjoy something or not does depend on your past experiences and how you are interpreting that thing that you are interacting with. So I feel like Eclipse is designed to, and does a good job of, causing you to interact with mechanics in the game that the regular version of the game doesn't really ask you to interact with. I mean, I guess they realized that most of these things would be unpalatable to the average user, and that's why they locked them all up in Eclipse. But they also put these mechanics in the game. Things like fall damage, taking damage from, like, using movement to avoid damage rather than just healing through everything, and not following the rules too closely in the game. Let me explain what I mean. So I think each difficulty of Eclipse teaches you one thing, and it teaches you how to deal with that thing, that challenge in the game, in a way that is different to the way that most of the game otherwise teaches you to deal with that thing. So, for example, very specifically, Eclipse 1 and Eclipse 5 and Eclipse 8 have to do with healing. And the healing's a big deal in this game, right? Healing's a way to deal with enemies. And in the regular difficulty levels, you just stack up a bunch of healing, and in combination with a couple other layers of defense, you can pretty much just stand there and tank things. You can get hit by Mithrix. You can stand still in a cloud of wisps. If you have enough healing, and, you know, probably some defense to bolster it. But little by little, starting with Eclipse 1, and then especially in Eclipse 5, and then Woe in Eclipse 8, it is step by step trying to tell you, stop depending on healing, do something else. And I think it does a good job of doing that. The regular game doesn't ask you to do something else. It just asks you to have enough healing so that when you eventually get hit, you can take it. It never asks you to think about, like, oh, what could I do differently to avoid getting hit? And that motivation to discover different ways of movement, different ways of interacting with enemies, I think elevates the game. If you don't care what you're getting hit by, or if it hits you, and you're only thinking like, oh, I need more medkits, oh, I need more teddy bears, whatever it is, then you don't actually have to interact with the enemies that much. You don't have to learn how often or at what angle things fire. A lot of people complain about blind pests. In the regular difficulty levels, the answer to blind pests is just, heal more. For the most part. Early on, that's why people mostly complain about them at the beginning of a run, because you don't have any items yet. If you've got a ton of items in regular difficulty, you don't really have to worry about getting hit by much of anything. But Eclipse takes that safety away, so you then have to really learn, okay, just like in the very first level of a normal run, for the entire run, I have to learn how to deal with X anytime it shows up. And so, for me, that means I had to learn fairly early on when it's blind pests, you can't run backwards, you can't jump, you can't really even run toward them, they will hit you, but they're very weak to strafing left and right. Lemurians are the opposite. They're pretty good at tracking you left to right, not great, but they're terrible at tracking you vertically. So just jumping constantly, Lemurians pretty much can't hit you. And, you'll learn some of this from the regular mechanics of the game. But you can cover it with other things other than adaptive play. But, again, Eclipse takes that away, so you have to learn to deal with it in another way. I've heard people make this same argument about, like, playing Drizzle, like why people shouldn't play Drizzle, because you don't learn anything. And now I'm forgetting to get behind him. I'm talking. Yeah, on Drizzle you don't have to really deal with anything, because nothing damages you that much. There's not a whole lot of reason to go quickly. Whereas on Monsoon, you have to learn to deal with things. Eclipse is just an extension of that, like, to the extreme. So, yeah, the first, like I said, 1, 5, and 8 are all about health, and learning to think about health in a different way. The next thing it teaches you in Eclipse 2 is, the next thing it teaches you is how to think about these little red zones. A lot of people, when they start playing, when they start getting good, medium good, they start getting used to the game, they're very focused on staying inside this little circle. And it's the most important thing. Like, priority 1, stay inside the circle, charge everything up. And that's okay. It's not a bad rule to have. But it's not as important as newer players tend to think. If things are really messy in here, you have to leave the zone. And leaving the zone for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, a minute, and getting back in control of the situation and surviving gets you to the next stage. Staying in here above all else and then saying, oh, I don't know why I died, or that was crazy, there was too many enemies, there's no way I could have won. Like, as long as that's part of your logic, you're just going to keep dying from time to time in these boss events. Whereas, if you learn, like, oh, it's not a big deal if I step out, it changes the way you approach a boss encounter. It changes the way you approach a Field's event. Like, stepping out into the void to take care of something, give yourself some breathing room, and then going back in. Oh, dang it. Well, now I can't take that. Unless... No. Oh, well. you know, it can be useful and it can save a run. The regular game doesn't really ask you to do that because the teleporter area is so large, but Eclipse does ask you to do that. Let's see, the next big thing. Oh yeah, fall damage. Eclipse 3 makes fall damage lethal, and it doubles its base damage. So, I mean, that's a huge deal. That really changes how you interact with every one of these stages and everything around it. In particular, people say like, "Oh, this is annoying. I don't like it." So the first thing I learned from Eclipse 3 was what items I can use to get out of fall damage, and so I learned how important Head Stompers and Transcendence were, whereas I might not have been that aware of them before. Like, I knew they had some benefits in some situations. I mean, I had to learn a lot about Head Stompers. I had to relearn what it means to stomp ahead. But that aside, like, just the idea that, like, okay, Head Stompers are an instant grab because no more fall damage. Among other things. They should be an instant grab anyway. That's another conversation. Transcendence as well. 0 fall damage. You just don't have to think about it anymore. So, recontextualizing those items. And it's not like fall damage doesn't hurt you in a monsoon run or a drizzle run. If you take a header off this cliff here and just jump down, and then a beetle or a greater wisp slams you right after you land, and you're like, oh man, I can't believe I got killed. Yeah, you sacrifice like half your health to a fall that you didn't have to take. But if you're just thinking like, oh, fall damage, it won't kill me, I'll just heal up later, then you end up taking more fall damage. After, you know, thinking about the items that can help with fall damage, I started taking account of player abilities that can be used to break momentum. Like, Bandit has a ton of tools, right? All of which break momentum. But almost every player does. I think Engineer and Captain are the only characters that don't have something natively in their kit, regardless of items, that can stop you from taking any fall damage. And once you know that, then Eclipse 3 isn't a big deal at all. Like, and it teaches you, like, wow, I've been taking fall damage for no reason the whole time. I just don't need to take fall damage for any reason. It's to the point now where I so instinctively break my momentum, even when I don't need to. Like, once I get Transcendence or a Head Stomper, I should just start taking big jumps willy-nilly. Who cares? But it's become instinctive to use the character abilities to break it instead. So that changes the effectiveness of my play, no matter what level I'm playing. If I'm not taking fall damage anymore, either because I know not to jump down here and instead to jump down here onto this route, as well as breaking fall damage with abilities. You know, that just improves my chances of success on any difficulty level. Enemies being faster, attacking faster, I think that's 4 and 7 maybe. I don't know if that teaches you anything specific that's really outside the realm of the regular difficulties, but it does make things a little more unforgiving. It means that you have to be a little bit more aware of what types of attacks are potentially coming. I guess the final thing is the money. When they cut down on your money, oh my god, come on. Was there a scrapper? Man, if there is someone watching and you saw a scrapper, tell me where it was. I guess it doesn't matter? Man. This is what I get. Okay, if I can keep the infusion, I'd like to, but I'm not gonna. Oh? Is this... Okay, that's exactly what I wanted. Christmas came early. Now, what was this smoking over here? Alright, turret. Having less money just makes you more aware of the money that you have. I think it encourages you to full clear a little more than rush. You have to spend more time in the stage getting money to buy things from the stage. You have to be a little smarter with your money. You can't just buy anything because you see it. You have to kind of decide a priority a little more. So it brushes up how you consider the money that you do have. And I think all of these things are good skills that translate toward improving runs at any difficulty level. So the point is that I think the claim that Eclipse is designed to be annoying is wrong. I think that it's designed around gameplay challenges that the developers thought are interesting, and they built them into the game. Oh, come on. Alright, well. More ATGs. Wow, lucky. They built these mechanics into the game, like fall damage and money and ability to avoid getting hit, and enemies that hit really hard. And the Eclipse challenges just force you to think of things a little more creatively. And I personally think that those are the best kinds of challenges in a game. The example that I can think of, any sort of a, like a Steam, what do you call them? Shot that too fast. Any sort of a Steam achievement or whatever you call them. I'm never fond of Steam achievements that are like beat the level 1 boss, because you're gonna do that anyway. I mean, it's fine. It's a little pat on the head. But the achievements that I really like are the ones that cause you to think creatively about the game. I think it was Mega Man 9. I had that on Wii. Was one of the first times that I encountered that, and it was something like get to the boss door without taking a hit. And to me that was like, holy cow, okay, that's a big deal, because, you know, I can get to the boss door no problem, right? I can farm little worms that spawn forever and fill up my my health, any health that I lost. Like, getting hit once or twice is not a big deal, so you end up dealing with enemies in that way. You're like, okay, I'll just jump at him, take a hit or two because it doesn't really matter, and then I'll heal up later. But that particular challenge says no, regardless of whether you can make it and heal up, we want you to try to make it without getting hit at all. It's like, okay, now I have to think of every enemy differently. And I like that kind of challenge. I like seeing that. I like challenges that make me think about the game's mechanics in a different way. What's another example? In Loop Hero, the challenge that causes you to, or it asks you to kill yourself or die outside of a fight. And that takes a lot of understanding of the mechanics of the game. Like, what? Oh, there's my scrapper. Okay, well, I guess we can scrap now. Good. All right. Yeah, just the fact that you can't really depend on healing items means that they're less valuable, and it means that you can then scrap them away and focus more on other items that help you run in a different way. So yeah, let me summarize my point. I think that people who look at Eclipse and say, it's annoying, it's not fun, I don't like it, right? You are absolutely entitled to that opinion. Like, you don't have to play Eclipse, you don't even have to play Risk of Rain, but to say that it's poorly designed, I think is kind of missing the forest for the trees. I think it's designed with a very specific intent, and that is to force you to deal with mechanics of the game that are much more difficult and that most of the player base doesn't really bother dealing with. So I think it's very intentional, and I think it's well designed in that sense. I don't think that means everyone has to enjoy it. Oh, come on! My healing drone. Yeah, enjoying something or not, and saying that it's like, whoa. Saying that it was well thought out or not are two different things. And that is all I have to say about that. Oh, come on. Aiming. All right. I also realize I might take things a little too seriously at times. You know, somebody saying like, "Oh, this sucks." They might not be expressing their deep and well thought out feelings. They might just be, you know, the verbal version of shitposting, which is fine. You know, when I lose to Mithrix by getting hit by Pizza Cutter twice in a row, I will say, "This is fucking bullshit," when it was definitely my fault. I just don't feel like saying that right now. Okay. This is good.